Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.
Hello, I am Lawrence Owen, and I'm here with another Sportscaster NFL news update. Now, Frank Reich just announced, while he was talking to some media, that there's a possibility that Phillip Rivers might stay with the Colts longer than just 1 year. Now, he did sign a 1-year contract that's going to last just through this upcoming season. However, what he said was pretty simple. I can just tell you, I really believe it's Phillip Rivers' intent to play multiple years with the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm very optimistic it'll be a multiple year thing. And yeah, I think the big part of Rivers coming here is Anthony Costanzo, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith, Mark Glowinski's. Those guys are our studs. Once it was all signed up and Chris Ballard got all the work done, that's something he kept mentioning after we signed him, of how valuable those guys are going to be to him. And for the most part, this is an incredibly young offensive line. Kelly, first round pick. Nelson, first round pick. AC is the only old dog in this offensive line, sitting there at left tackle. He has a 1-year contract as well. It's possible he'll actually last a couple more years as well. It just depends. Now, I can understand the thought process of Phillip Rivers possibly playing longer than 1 year with the Indianapolis Colts when he's got studs like these guys in front of him protecting him, where he don't have to run for his life every stinking play like he did with the Chargers last couple seasons. I mean, last year, week 1, when Indianapolis played against the Chargers, they went into overtime. Rivers played his butt off, but he was under pressure consistently by a Colts front seven that wasn't even that highly praised with pass rush. Now, the Colts also have a defense, including guys like Xavier Rhodes and DeForest Buckner. So the defense has been solidified. Phillip Rivers has a solid run game to go with that protective offensive line. The Colts went out and got extra weapons, including Jonathan Taylor, including Michael Pittman Jr. to throw to. He'll have a healthy T.Y. Hilton. He's going to have a healthy Jack Doyle. He's going to have a healthy Paris Campbell. He's going to have weapons to throw. He's going to have a running game that he can lean on. He's not going to have to throw 40, 50 yards downfield consistently in the fourth quarter because he's down by more than 2 scores. The Indianapolis Colts have only been down by more than 1 score 3 times last season. 3 times. That's not something that's going to happen with this improved offense and Phillip Rivers throwing the football. He's going to be able to hand the football off and then occasionally pass the football in reasonable yardage, where guys can, where he's not even going to have to worry about the pressure because he can throw little 5-10 yard dump offs to quick receivers underneath, guys like T.Y. Hilton and Paris Campbell, who would be masters because of their speed at yards after the catch. He's got guys like Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor that he could throw the football to out of the backfield just in case something happens. Missed assignments happen in this league, just not very often with this blue and white offensive wall standing in front of him. I do believe that Phillip Rivers could have a very excellent year. And if he leads this Colts to the postseason this season, no matter how far they get through, if they could somehow find a way to win their division and or get into the playoffs, whether they make noise or not, there's a good possibility, as long as he's healthy, he'll probably sign another year. That would be an excellent proposition for the Indianapolis Colts because they have Eason sitting in the backs, trying to learn from some very valuable veteran quarterback leadership from Rivers, from Jacoby Brissett. If Rivers can last a couple more seasons, if he could stay for 2-3 seasons, help Jacob Eason learn how to play at an NFL level, then not only is Rivers doing his job now, but he's setting the Colts up for a positive situation in the future after he decides to retire. This is a great situation right now to be a Colts fan. So I have questions. First off, I want to say I can't pronounce Lil Oliosha. Hope I pronounced that right. Thank you for the follow. And Devo Jr. asks, will Justin Herbert make his start right away like what people see Burrow will be doing? Well, okay, so first off, Herbert's not on the Colts. It's Eason. Herbert, I believe, is with the Chargers, and I don't think he'll make a start either because they have Tyrod Taylor, I believe, over there starting for them. I believe Phillip Rivers. Eason won't start for the Indianapolis Colts. Matter of fact, Eason will be the third option at quarterback. It'll definitely be Phillip Rivers, and unless a trade happens for Jacoby Brissett, he'll be the second option, and Eason will sit in the back, waiting, learning from veterans. That way, when he does come and take the field, yeah, Rivers' old team that Herbert's there. Yes. So, I believe that I think that the Chargers are actually going to go with Tyrod Taylor. I think Herbert is another, even though he was picked 6th, I'm pretty sure Chargers grabbed Herbert with the 6th pick of the NFL draft. I do believe they'll probably go with Taylor because I don't think Herbert is NFL ready either. Okay? He's got to get up to speed. Now, could Herbert take over? Could Herbert take over midway through the season after he kind of catches up, learns a little thing? Absolutely. Also, if Tyrod Taylor starts to really stink up the field early on in game week 1, week 2, week 3, I could see Herbert shoved in there, say, hey, let's see if you could do any better. That's something that, obviously could very well happen. Same with situation with Tua in Miami, right? I mean, you're expecting Fitzmagic to start, but if he starts stinking it up, Tua might get thrown in there. So, yeah, that's how I fully expect it to work out. Jacob Eason, I don't think will start for at least a year myself for the Colts. But think about it. I mean, Phillip Rivers now is with a team that has such a great offensive line that can protect him. That's going to increase his years in the NFL. People say, well, his arm strength. It starts to lessen as the season goes on. He's not going to have to throw that football downfield so many times every game, every week anymore. Because the Colts are not going to be behind in games. They weren't behind in games, like I said earlier, very much last year with Jacoby Brissett. At least not by a lot. They were always a drive in from winning the game. The only real game that just went out of hand was the New Orleans Saints game. So Rivers, his arm will be able to be fresh because he won't have to throw the ball as deep and as often playing behind this offensive line throughout the season. His body won't get beat up playing as nearly as badly throughout the season, playing behind this line throughout the season. Phillip Rivers is going to have an excellent showing as an Indianapolis Colts. I very, very much believe this in here. From watching, I broke him down, his play last year. Rivers is an excellent quarterback. He leads receivers. He throws great touch on the football, makes very catchable passes. I can't express how important throwing a catchable pass is in the NFL. And, hey, thank you for the follow. And Jacoby Brissett had a problem with that. Now, he did better last year at throwing catchable passes, taking heat off the ball, especially for receivers that were like 5-10 yards away from him. But Rivers is a master at throwing the catchable pass. So I also want to thank Jane Doe and Jim, fan of the Heat, for joining my stream here on Sportscaster. The greatest thing that I think could happen is if Taylor and Mack splits carries, keeps themselves healthy, keeps other defenses and defensive coordinators guessing on which running back is on the field at a time, because they bring different aspects to the running game. You could even keep them both on the field behind Rivers and run a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, and a 1 tight end formations all day. That would scare a lot of people, because think about if you have T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr. on the outsides playing wide receiver. You got Jack Doyle, who not only can catch the football, but is one of the best run-blocking tight ends in the NFL. And then you got Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor right behind Phillip Rivers. You don't know if they're throwing short. You don't know if they're throwing long, because Pittman's there. Obviously, T.Y. is a deep threat as well. You don't know if they're running it up the middle with Jonathan Taylor. You don't know if it's going to be a pitch to Mack, who is so good at finding lots of yards running towards the sidelines. I mean, my goodness, this is an absolute scary situation for an offensive coordinator and head coach that the Indianapolis Colts have. Frank Reich, remember, Frank Reich was with this man, Phillip Rivers, in the Chargers stadium, teaching him as their offensive coordinator. So Rivers knows Frank Reich and his system. This is going to be an absolute showing coming up. I am a USF Bulls fan, so I watched Mack from the start. He could be such a star. Just give him some time. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Marlon Mack coming out was still really, really raw as a running back. He had great agility, good one-cut stuff, good stop-and-go speed. But the thing that Marlon Mack lacked was he wasn't able to pass block. He wasn't really good between the tackles, lowering his shoulder, getting those extra yards, things like that. And he's had Tom Rathman as his coach since he's been on the Indianapolis Colts. And he has got him so much better at pass blocking. He's got him so much better at lowering his shoulder, squaring himself up against defenders, and falling forward, getting those tough extra yards. In the last 2 seasons, Marlon Mack has been a top 5 running back in the NFL at yards after first contact. So many people don't know this, but he is. That's why I'm saying now Jonathan Taylor has better top-end speed than Marlon Mack does. But Marlon Mack has better stop-and-go speed, where, he can make a cut and then hit his top speed immediately faster than what Jonathan Taylor can. So that's 2 different types of running backs. That's things that you could use in your arsenal. I would love to see both those running backs in the backfield behind Phillip Rivers, and Rivers could just have an option, And it's not like an RPO option. It's not like Rivers is going to run the football a lot, but he can make the option a read option. Is he going to hand the football off to Jonathan Taylor, between the tackles, or pitch it out to Marlon Mack, or decide, hey, I like this matchup on the outside or versus my tight end, and I could throw the football for a lot of yards. And Phillip Rivers is a very, very smart quarterback, and He's a great leader, great competitor. Everybody knows that. The reason why he had so many interceptions last year was because they were down so much in the second half of games, and he's such a competitor that he was just throwing the football out there to his big receivers, hoping that they would come down with it. And he's, like I said before, he's not going to have to do that again. And because he's not going to have to do that, you're going to see his completion percentage go up. You're going to see his interceptions go down. I don't know if you're going to see high yardage from Phillip Rivers. I don't think you're going to see a lot of attempts from Phillip Rivers, at least the way you was with the Chargers. I think you're going to see a more of a, and this is weird to say, but more of a game managing quarterback out of Phillip Rivers, because he's not going to have to put the team on his back. The team's back is on the back of that offensive line standing in front of him and that run game that's behind him. That is what carries the football team. All Rivers has to do is make sure that the right play is called at the right time and execute. He doesn't have to pull what Andrew Luck used to do from 2012 to 2018. He's not going to have to put the team on his back and will them into the playoffs. All he's got to do is play his part and allow the rest of the team to play theirs. And this Colts team could go somewhere very impressive. Oh yeah, absolutely. Jonathan Taylor, stiff arm. Well, it's not just a stiff arm as well. Have you seen the thighs on Jonathan Taylor? That kid's legs are beastly. I remember when the Giants running back came out of college and everybody was like, oh my God, look at the thighs on that guy. Jonathan Taylor has very similar thighs. This kid can power through tackles like nobody's business. I have seen, watching tape of Jonathan Taylor, I've seen so many shoestring tackles and lower leg tackles that he's just ran through, and it didn't even make him stutter step, It didn't even make him lose a momentum. He just kept plowing through that. And that's something that's going to scare a lot of teams because they have to defend that middle. And if they got Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack, what do? They got to pick their poison. Are they going to crowd the middle of that line in hopes that they could stop Jonathan Taylor from running up the gut? Or are they going to spread their linebackers out just in case they pitch that ball off to Marlon Mack and he cuts off a 50-yard run down the sideline? They got to pick their poison. And then, if the run game just starts becoming so hard to stop because of that situation, think about Rivers could just keep the football, turn around, throw that ball downfield to T.Y. Hilton, Paris Campbell, Michael Pittman Jr., Zach Pascal. Exactly. That play action with Rivers is going to be so effective. Now, the Indianapolis Colts did go out and get some extra corners. I think you're going to see a huge improvement from Xavier Rhodes from the Minnesota Vikings. The last couple seasons, Xavier Rhodes has dealt with so many injuries. And especially lower, like your lower leg injuries, your core injuries, stuff that deals with your speed and your agility. He's fully healthy now. He's going to have a lot of that speed and agility back. And he's a big corner. They also went out and they got TJ Carey from the Browns, who is also a very good cornerback. Now, I think he'll be more of a backing up Kenny Moore in the slot. And then, of course, Rock Ya-Sin, who was the Colts' first pick of the draft the previous year. And after week 8, Rock Ya-Sin was rated the best rookie quarterback in the NFL. So, this is a scary proposition. If everything goes and clicks on all cylinders, there's not a lot, I think, that could stop the Indianapolis Colts. What could stop them is themselves. The same thing that hurt them last year. Injuries. quarterback got hurt. Three of the top three wide receivers in the wide receiver room got hurt and was gone for all or most of the season. I mean, when you have your number 1, your number 2, and your number 3 wide receiver missing 75% or more of the season due to injuries, your passing game is going to suffer dramatically. And then that in turn is going to make your run game suffer because teams ain't going to be afraid of your passing game, so they're just going to crowd the line of scrimmage and stop the run. But when you have a balanced offense the way that this Indianapolis Colts team has now, with a powerful, effective front wall offensive line, with a smart veteran quarterback sitting behind it, just watch. We'll see how it happens. As long as the Colts don't hit themselves with penalties and injuries, I truly believe the Colts will have one heck of a season this year. So I want to thank Calix0925 also and Bears Paul for joining the stream here on Sportscaster. Everyone is sleeping on Isaiah Rodgers. He is a smaller cornerback, but he's got 4.2 speed. Reminds me of a faster Kenny Moore. I agree. And honestly, I don't think they're necessarily sleeping on him. He's got a lot to catch up to. He's got a lot of people also. I mean, just because he won't be a starter doesn't mean that he won't be a good option. All right. Kari Willis was not a starter last year, but was a very, very good option. Bobby Okereke was not a starter last year, but he was a very, very good option. Depth is so important in the NFL. Next man up. So you might see Isaiah Rodgers play quite a bit because you never know. Obviously, somebody's going to get hurt at some point in time. No one on every team stays completely healthy the entire season. So that's what that's all about. Just depth is so important. So I want to thank everyone that sat here on Sportscaster. Join me in the live conversation. If you're watching on Sportscaster and you don't have a profile, so you can't give me a follow or smash that favorite button down there, please spend 30 seconds, make a profile. That way you can do what I just got done saying. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like. And until next time, as usual, have a good one.